defense without conventional method?
As elsewhere, the term defense is a misnomer. It's not what it is. It's recognized on all sides that so-called missile defense is an offensive weapon. The Chinese, who fear this weapon, observe that missile defense is both a shield and a sword. And U.S. strategic analysts agree in almost the same words. The RAND Corporation, which is the main research and advisory branch of the Department of Defense, describes missile defense as both a shield and an enabler of action. It permits action to take place by providing the framework in which the U.S. can use conventional forces, or for that matter, nuclear forces, without fear of retaliation. If missile defense technically ever succeeds in its goals, the most that can be anticipated is that it would be able to inhibit a retaliatory strike. It's the most that's expected, and everyone understands that on all sides. But to inhibit a retaliatory strike means that you're free to carry out a first strike. That's why missile defense is understood to be a first strike weapon on all sides. It's U.S. strategic analysts and their potential adversaries. Going to the missile defense systems in Eastern Europe, they are a very explicit provocation in their placement and their nature to the Russian deterrent. And again, that's understood by U.S. strategic analysts, leading ones like my colleague Theodore Postel, who recently has an article in Arms Control Today, the main arms control journal on the topic, looking at the missile defense systems in Eastern Europe, the planned ones, from the point of view of a strategic planner in Russia. And he points out that they must interpret this as an initial step of a very serious threat to their deterrent. So therefore they will react. And in fact, they've already reacted exactly as expected. And the same is true of China. China was slow to react, but is now beginning to react. And the reaction will be, for example, as is known, to immerve their missiles, to put multiple nuclear warheads on missiles, to build up offensive missile capacity, to set, both for Russia and China, to move towards placing offensive and more destructive nuclear armed missiles on automatic control, launch on warning as it's called, which is practically a call for a nuclear war, if only by accident, what's called normal accident in the trade, the kind of accident you can expect with a complex system, that anyone who has a computer knows how it works, and these are vastly more complex. In the past, normal accidents have come extremely close, and with the like minutes away from happening, stopped by human intervention, and with the much less sophisticated systems in the hands of the Russians and the Chinese and indeed others, this is simply virtually a call for destruction. Furthermore, it is well understood, again on all sides, that so-called missile defense is simply a step towards something much broader and much more ominous, namely weaponization of space, meaning emplacement in space of systems of lethal weaponry that can strike almost instantaneously, a few minutes, anywhere in the world, controlled by a surveillance technology that can tell if someone's walking across the street in Prague, and it puts everyone at risk. Now, that's official U.S. policy, to move in that direction. The words are denied, but when you read the documents, it's very clear. The Clinton administration was formally committed to what they called control of space for military purposes. The Bush administration has moved on to what they call ownership of space for military purposes. That's a vast extension of the traditional stand back to the Second World War that the U.S. will dominate the world and will not tolerate any threat to its capacity to use military force to maintain that dominance. No alternative form of sovereignty will be tolerated. And the means are there. weaponization of space would mean, sooner or later, placement of weapon stations, probably nuclear powered, which themselves would be extremely dangerous, and which could pose a threat, a serious threat to anyone. Anyone, in fact, not just nuclear states. The U.S. has refused to accept what are called nuclear assurance restrictions, meaning a ban on using nuclear weapons in a first strike against non-nuclear states. The U.S. formally rejects that alone, meaning anyone is a potential target. Well, the struggle to prevent the development of military bases in Poland and Czechoslovakia and missile defense systems is of extraordinary significance. In fact, it is no exaggeration to say that the fate of the species is at stake in these decisions. Well, when I hear the slogan, "Give peace a chance," at my age, I'm thinking of my grandchildren, and I desperately want them to be able to have a world in which they can survive. And that will happen only in one way: if we not only give peace a chance, but make sure that the chance is realized. The people of the world overwhelmingly want peace, overwhelmingly oppose the warlike actions of their leaders. It's always been true. It's up to us to see whether we can bring that hope to fruition.